The only thing worse than being embarrassed is talking about being embarrassed. Brett smiled and said, You have nothing to be embarrassed about. You're just trying to make a living like anyone else. She looked down for a moment and took a deep breath. Okay, she said, lifting her head. I'm not embarrassed anymore then. Good, he said with a smile. Want a burger? She chuckled and said, Well, it seems to me you know your way around a fire. She walked toward him and asked, Do you like camping? He extended his hand and she took it. I'm Brett, Lucy, and yeah, I like it. I need to get away every now and then. I like your RV. I guess I prefer tents, though. I grew up in an RV, she said. My dad got rich early, retired, and my parents had me a little later on. And you still live in an RV? She smiled. Again, I just bought mine after living in the dorms. He pointed to a chair by the fire, and she watched him set a metal screen over some rocks. That's awesome, he said. So you waited until you graduated. She shook her head, and Brett realized he was focused on how beautiful her face was now instead of the memory of the rest of her body. She was definitely pretty. I still have a few months to go, but I was just able to get the down payment together. It actually costs less than living in the dorms. Do they have somewhere on campus for you to park? No, but there's an RV park right by the campus. He smiled and said, I remember my grandfather had a camper shell. He took me camping once. I got a pup tent. My cousin, too. He and my grandmother stayed in the shell. I always thought it was neat, like a little house. She smiled and said, Oh, a camper shell has nothing on a big RV. It has all the comforts of a house, but you can travel all over. He put beef patties down on the screen and said, So you travel a lot. Hey, she said, did you get your jacket back? My jacket? Your fireman's uniform. I didn't take it off until I was at the hospital and they gave me a gown. Oh, yeah, he said. Our stuff always ends up at the hospital and then they give it back to us. Her expression changed for a moment, and he thought maybe he'd misspoken. Are you okay? He asked. She pointed at the burgers. How long will those take? He shrugged. 10 minutes or so. She nodded and said, Why don't you bring them inside? I'll make some side dishes. She turned around and walked back to the RV. The girl was beautiful, with or without clothes on. He let out a silent whistle and attended to the burgers. When 4 were done, he put them on a paper plate, grabbed a 6-pack from the cooler, and walked to the RV. When he rapped on the door, she called, It's open. It took some doing because his hands were full, but he managed to get the door open and to step inside. You can put them on the table, she called from the back. The interior of the RV was beautifully appointed, and he thought the table was actually solid wood. He set the plate and the 6-pack down. I thought maybe you didn't have enough time to really look before, she said softly from behind him. He turned and saw her.